ready to rock?
Athens, Georgia, Right Club audience, are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready?
I think so.
Go ahead.
First, a warning. Bob Ross will not be here tonight with his happy little trees. Joyce Kilmer will not be here perfecting poetry, not nearly as lovely as a tree. There will be no twee tree treatise, so far as I can help it. You're a mature crowd, not ignorant in the ways of the world. You've read the Grimm's fairy tales. Dark things happen in forests. Trees aren't always benign. When I was little, I was a fan of the more sanitized fairy tales, especially the one fairy tale most girls believe. Daddy is good and kind and strong, a sturdy oak, protecting his little girl from the elements. Like many youthful fantasies, Santa, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, my belief in my fairy tale father faded as I gradually realized that as perfect as my father was to me, I was not equally perfect to him. When I was in 3rd grade, my father coached my softball team. I played shortstop. During a particularly tense game in which our team had just enough players to stave off a forfeit, I caught a line drive with my windpipe instead of my glove. I stayed in the game determined not to cause a forfeit. I'd let my father down enough with my failure to catch the ball. I couldn't sit out just because I got the wind knocked out of me. All that night, my mother told me, I mumbled in my sleep, "I'll catch the ball next time, Daddy, I'll catch the ball next time." So deep was my fear of disappointing my father. I was 8. I'd eaten the oak's toxic acorn, and there was no escaping the consequences. The more anxious I became as a child, the more I disappointed my father. The more I disappointed my father, the more anxious I became. It was a vicious cycle. If I came home sick from school, usually from stress and anxiety, though I was too young to realize those were the source of my many ailments, my father would give my mom shit for being too soft on me. From the time he started kindergarten until the time he graduated valedictorian of his senior class in high school, he'd never missed a day of school. By the time I graduated high school, I'd failed him. There were B's mixed in with my A's. I graduated with honors in the upper ranks of my class, but I wasn't valedictorian. I wasn't even salutatorian. Well, then came college. I dropped out of Northwestern not once, but twice. The first time to take a year off until I was ready to apply myself to my studies, a decision the dean lauded as very mature. My father was decidedly less impressed. The second time I was on the dean's list, top 20 freshman in what was then the school's speech, but burnout from pressure to keep my grades up and mounting cynicism from a work-study stint at the alumni office, during which I learned the true value of that 20-something grand a year degree, led me to pull the plug on my college career. I left in good standing with the university, but in poorer than ever standing with my father. As the disappointments piled up, both personal and academic, he was no longer the mighty oak that shielded me, but a giant silently chiding me for my failures, his branches blocking out what little light I could manage to see as I tried to build a life, tear it down, build it again, only to have to rebuild it once more in the shadow of his presence, the branches creaking ominously overhead, threatening to crush me with every gust of wind. A mentor once asked, if you were not his daughter and you'd only met him as an adult, would you be trying so hard to win his approval? I wrestled with the truth. Why, if I can't trim down the branches that block out my light, don't I at least have the sense to move away from their shadow? Such a diseased tree cannot nurture, only destroy. My father called on Mother's Day, but I didn't answer. Days later, I'm hesitant to even listen to the voicemail he left, not in any hurry to listen to his voice, a voice whose tone suggests he doesn't believe in me, doesn't believe I could possibly be doing well, that even my small successes are flukes, or worse, lies. Part of me must have proved him wrong. The other part says, why bother? On the occasions when I returned his calls, my father is nowhere to be found. His wife answers instead, but rather than just take a message and let me go, she assaults me with a laundry list of my father's latest accomplishments. Young people he's helped, awards he's won, teens he's inspired to follow their dreams, students whose self-esteem he's buoyed. I cringe at his public image, carefully pruned so that the painted ring around the base of the once mighty oak cannot be seen. The ring that signifies disease, a tainted heart, the heart of a man who lost his mother, his only ally as a young man, leaving him alone and misunderstood, leaving him a man who, to this day, seemingly grasped for the praise and approval his father could never give him. He wasn't his father's favorite by any means. For as long as I could remember, my grandfather rarely called my father by the correct name, always calling him by my uncle's name. There was no senility to excuse the error. Grandpa would frequently drive from Florida to New York and back to visit my aunts and uncles and cousins, but skip our home in Georgia, saying that the trip to our house would be far too far out of his way. We saw him and his wife once a year if we made the trip, with few exceptions. When my grandfather died, I went to his memorial. Afterward, we gathered at my aunt's home to share memories and such. I cried, not so much from grief, as from feeling that I didn't deserve to grieve him. My cousins were close to him. I was not. They knew a different grandpa, one who would travel any distance to see them. I never knew that man. When my father is gone, it may well be the same. Scores of people who knew a different man, the man of my stepmother's boasting, one who saved teen girls with daddy issues from the stripper pole, while his own daughter stands naked here tonight, soul laid bare exposed, her words laid open as he gleans pride and praise through someone else's children. Children who will only see him as a mentor, not a critic. Children who have not underachieved like it was an addiction, the track marks of their father's disappointment scarring their hearts. They will mourn the oak and strive to honor him. I will toss my book of fairy tales onto the funeral pyre of his branches and walk away.